Yes, and welcome to today's broadcast of In the Tank Live with Aaron Hairston and Keith Deyo. Looks like I gotta straighten this up a little bit. There we go, that's better. And we've got a great broadcast for you today. The both of us are having an exciting week already. We know it's gonna get even better. We're providing so much more because our tanks have been filled. There has been so much more clarity in the mission. And what we're finding is that our why has grown even deeper. So as Aaron comes on here, you're gonna recognize that the intensity and the posture and the passion with which we speak, especially as we come back into from an amazing summer and back into some of the schedule that people are picking up, people are going to start to see that they either grew over the summer or they died a little bit, and they're going to start playing catch up. And that's where I believe Aaron and I, our system, our inspiration, our daily message and consistency is so valuable, because when you can check back in with something that you know can take whatever it is you're doing to the next level, or give you the belief, or even for a moment allow you to get out of that daily routine, when you know something exists like that, the value increases. And that's really what we're all about, because we know that ultimately, no matter if it's a money thing or not, money will always follow value. And also value follows value. So if we continue to provide for each and every one of you and all of the hundreds and thousands of people that see this all over the world, as we grow and develop and take you along the ride with us and focus on this journey, not so much on whatever it's going to produce, we know that only good things can happen. And that's our mindset, that's our focus. And so today we want to discuss with you the importance of being you, being who you are, being the blessed version that you were made to be. And understand that you may not have even arrived yet. That whole thing, that whole version of you that you know is in there, you may not have arrived yet and still be picking up some of the key lessons that you've been blessed with and looking forward to those lessons. And so as Aaron comes on here, I'll go ahead and bring him up. He's celebrating a special day with his time, and I love the fact that he can design his day being exactly who he was born to be, and share this special moment instead of having to take a day off or call in or try to focus in other areas. And he can still provide at the same time the same level while being around his family, being with his wife. Aaron, how good does it feel to not only be in control of your schedule, but when you're getting beat up or you're taking body blows, to go, bring it on, man. I am strong as a motherfucker at 42, crushing it. Got like a 5 to 8% body fat, like in stupid shape, knowing that no matter what you're blessed with, no matter what lesson, no matter what gifts are presented to you every single day, that you've got an answer. And and even if it doesn't come to you right away, the knowing that it's on its way, that answer exists, and you don't have to stress over it, you don't have to empty your tank in the process of getting beat up, how good does that feel?
It's actually pretty scary, actually. and the reason why I say that is we are so much more than we actually realize we are. And it's not until we pause for a second and feel that feeling. And I was just telling the wife just literally seconds ago how anxious I feel. Like I just feel anxious. I feel like everything's just moving really fast, and I feel like I'm missing something, and it's just weird. Like it's a weird feeling. I can't wait for my box of e-shots to show up. I went right through whatever I had from Celebration, so those are done. That's a huge problem. So we fixed that. You know, they'll be here in a day, if not this afternoon. So I think what I was getting at is that fear of understanding that you're so much more than you actually realize you are is a blessing and a fear at the same time. And I think that we all have to realize that there are going to be things that are going to come in and out of our life. There are going to be people that's going to come in and out of our life. And, I just think about all the people I've ever spoken to. And the biggest common denominator of all of them is that they don't realize the gift that they have, right? They've been running on someone else's clock for so long that they haven't had a chance to really realize until either something bad has happened, and they've had to kind of reflect and pause for a second, or they've been pulled in a situation where now they've been asked to show up, and they either show up or they get fired, right? So I think a lot of times we have to just pause ourselves for a second and just take that feeling in, that anxiousness, that overwhelm, that being of ourselves, so we can understand what it is that we need to learn through the patterns and things that we learn. And I tell you that for me, Keith, it's been an incredible ride this year, of ups and downs and rights and lefts and, sidearms and right hooks and on all kind of crazy stuff. And just knowing who I am as an individual, I win, right? And I know that, right? That's a quality of my standard that it will never change, right? When I'm put my back against the wall, I win. I fight with love, I fight with determination, and I fight with resilience, right? No matter how hard it is, I don't quit. And that could be an annoyance of my wife, because I don't quit. I keep going and I keep going. And even when people ask me, do you still want to do that? I'm like, hell yeah, you know. And it's important that we understand who we are. And the only way you're going to do that is really taking a second and being thankful and gratitude. And I really ground myself spiritually so that I understand that everything in my life is a blessing. Nothing is given to me. Everything is a gift. And so just like when we wake up in the morning, understanding, okay, I'm going to be me today. And what does that mean? And setting the day full of affirmations and understanding and fulfilling yourself with love, because I think a lot of times we forget about that as well, right? We give so much on the outside and we never really give ourselves that moment. And it sounds weird, right? It almost sounds selfish when someone says, well, why do you seek your own happiness? Why do you only do for you? Why do you focus on you and you and you and you? And I think that's the misconception of a lot of people, is that being focused on being you and being the best version of you is not a selfish thing. It's actually a selfless thing, because you just disposing of yourself without being there presently is actually a disadvantage for whoever's receiving, because they're not getting you, right? They're not getting you at your fullness. And so I encourage everybody to start doing more personal development, more books, more reading. There's a lot of information out there that will really teach you about different philosophies, things that people have expanded their minds on. And now for you to go ahead and pick up the pieces. A lot of our mentors, Keith, haven't even, have left the earth, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful that we get to actually tap into that, so that they can explain who they are, and then that will help us, give us clues so we can understand who we are, so that when we have those stressful moments, when we have those anxiety moments, we can take a pause and say, all right, I get it. All right, I get it. And just feel all of that, because that's what makes us human, and that's also what makes us real.
Yeah, Aaron, you're right on. Because if you're busy pleasing others with a version of you that's only designed to please them, and it depends upon how much they're pleased, and you're constantly waiting for their reaction in order to give yourself permission to feel one way or another, or
Right.
you've put something in your life, something in your habits and rituals, that the only way you can do something is if it depends upon an outside source, you're really playing a losing game, because eventually that thing is going to shift, change, the volume's going to decrease, the resistance isn't going to be there, and then you're going to be left going, I can't feel this way without this. And so if you're in a situation where you're shitting all over yourself, or you're waiting for someone else to do something before you do it, or you're so stuck in fear that you won't move unless somebody else moves with you, and then you get stuck in the same thing. In the same way, you can get stuck feeling responsible for others' movement, and that feeling of responsibility is one that's really, really hard to break away from. The ability to disassociate with those that are simply following, being part of the process, rather than adding in to get that boat to move. They're simply sitting on the boat. They're not grabbing an oar and starting to row, right? Or they're just sitting at the table waiting for the garden to be tended and things to be prepared so that they can be part of a group. And you feel responsible for them because you either promised them something, you saw something that they also saw and don't see anymore, and they promised you to move at a pace they're no longer moving at. There's so many ways that it's an innate behavior for humans, especially people that are team oriented, to feel responsible for others, especially if you're a leader and a team captain. But what you're actually doing by only focusing on their well-being is that you're becoming less of yourself in the process and becoming more of the sum of those people that you're dragging along. And it ends up being painful and slow for both parties. So what I implore you to do is become even more of yourself, and in the process, attract a greater version of you on a daily basis, and then use that to create a presence and an influence over others so that those types of people, even if they're just showing up at the table, go, huh, wow, I've been sitting here eating all this time and I haven't gone out once to get those weeds, to go out once to tend that garden. And it's self-realization created from self-actualization because you focused on being you every single day. You chose the version that's going to show up. You attracted those things in your life because you chose you. And it starts with love. It starts with appreciation. It starts with value. I can tell you, there's no such thing as procrastination. It's all a value proposition. Finding out that am I in the right position? Am I in the right spot? Is this environment conducive to who I am today and how I'm going to show up tomorrow? And how much do I value my future self in order to make choices right now that I will appreciate this version of me tomorrow?
Right.
Think about that. Am I going to fall prey to a craving, a low state, and fall prey to a decision that isn't going to invest either the time, the effort, the energy, the focus, determination that I will benefit from tomorrow? There's so many more things that we can do intently and be consciously aware of to reprogram whatever it is we've been doing up until this moment that will pay off big time for the version of us that we choose to show up as tomorrow. And in that process, in that gap that exists between, there is going to be such an amazing experience that no matter what gets thrown at you, you're in such a state, a place of posture, your passion is overflowing, that when people see you, they're going to want to know who you are, and you're going to be able to tell them without a doubt who you are, why you are, what you are, where you've been, where you're going. And when that type of influence happens, big things are created. It's a tribal experience. Because if they don't believe in it themselves, they probably will think of somebody that is just like you. Wow, I got to introduce you to this person. Aaron, how many times does that happen? We walk in, we have a conversation like, oh my God, you've got to meet so-and-so. And that's how you're building it. You're jumping these boundaries. Instead of living in this small little box, you're jumping boundaries. People are connecting you all over the world. And ultimately, we get to be on this journey with other people that aren't necessarily in our immediate circle. And that's how all of that happens. It can't happen until you love yourself, value you, and understand who you're going to show up as, and then what's that going to create in the process.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it, right? I think a lot of times we forget about our childhood and where we disassociate it with who we were because it didn't fit in, right?
Yeah.
It was you were a circle trying to get into a square hole. It just didn't work, and so you said, "Well, I'm going to revert to learning and acting like I am someone else," and we end up getting into that habit because of acceptance. And I know as an adult, I had a few bouts with that, trying to figure out who am I, and I had titles and I had significance all over me, right? And now it's actually weird, right, to have that because that's not what I seek anymore, right? I'm not looking for the external to accept me. I'm looking for me internally to accept me, and that's big. That's a big move because again, no one else can see that, right? No one else can see that. Well, at least that we may perceive, right? Because when someone actually knows that someone else loves themselves, they can see that. And I'm not talking from conceit. I'm not talking about, being, caught up in themselves so much that they actually don't value others. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is not acting as if just because you must fit in, acting as you are and who you are and loving that and bringing yourself into a situation to provide more value of you. Right? Because that's the thing. You can't pull out of you what you don't know.
Yes.
Right? And so as we transform every single day and we understand how we accept situations and we delegate situations and we problem solve, it's a basis of our own values and who we believe we are, right? Or else we're going to get confused. We're going to fall off. We're going to find ourselves in a state of uncomfort, but more importantly, of confusing and misguided, right? Because again, you're being guided and being you. And so what I want to encourage everybody to do is if you feel at any second during the day that you're not being yourself, right? Because it feels weird or it's not going to be accepted or someone's going to ridicule you or criticize you or question. Well, why are you acting like that? That's not, that's not what I'm used to seeing you do.
Turn the
Yeah,
volume up when that
just
happens.
ask. Yeah, ask them. Say, what do you mean? What do you mean? And watch what happens, right? The question now becomes the answer. They may say, oh, because again, you've now shared from within. And those are no words that can be shared. There's nothing there. It's just the presence and the light that you shine through your eyes. When you look at someone that really is focused and understanding who they are, there's a lot of fullness in their eyes when you look at them. You can see right into their soul and you can see that they're there with you. Whereas when you talk to people and there's no eye contact and they're kind of drifting away and you're not really seeing that they're present, matter of fact, you start questioning whether or not they're even listening to you. So you stop talking, right? You just keep it moving. You go, oh, I got to go on to the next thing, right? Or they're so caught up in their head that they're not present at all. So really internalize what I said, because a lot of times, even at adults, we forget that that's important. That's a very important thing. It's not about your job. It's not about your career. It's not about all this external stuff that you have. It's really finding yourself and understanding how special you are and understanding that, you know what, you have value within you. And it's not what someone's willing to pay you. It's not for what someone's willing to give you a high five for. It's what you're willing to give yourself a high five for, and understanding how special you are and valuable, and watch everything else start to become even more, right? So that you can show up more and you can provide more. And more importantly, those people that are they're finding themselves lost with fitting in can now say, oh, I don't need to. And it's just like this young man that I met at the event in Nashville. We were sitting down talking and he goes, you know what, Aaron, I don't feel like I fit in. And I said, you never will.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And I said, how have you felt that way before? And he goes, I always feel that way. I said, so then stop trying to fit in, stand up and hold strong, right? And collaborate, bring value to the situations versus you trying to be immersed in the situation, because you being immersed in the situation is not good for you or the movement. And when you understand that and you start to live in that, watch what happens. Opportunities start opening up, doors start opening up. People start to say, wow, whatever you're doing, man, just keep doing it because it feels good. And what they're finding is that they're seeking themselves in the situation and being able to provide more value. And that feels really good. And that's fulfillment. And going back to your question, Keith, how does it feel? It feels absolutely fulfilled, because I tell you, there's more joy and happiness in my life now. Even though if people looked at what I was going through, or even just saw the list of things that I do every day or feel every day, they would probably be like, no, I'm good. But honestly, everybody has that, right? Not all of us are willing to admit that, but all of us have that feeling that we're not perfect, right? We're perfectly made imperfect. And that's what we have to accept and say, you know what? I'm willing to go through what I have to go through to find my best self.
Drop the mic. Remove the mask. You be you. That's what we're talking about. And so I'm about to get on a Zoom call, Aaron. I was looking forward. Yeah, you're going to be driving. I want you to listen in, because we are speaking the truth to parents, to trainers, to communities. We're giving them the permission they need to get over their fear, to get over their misconceptions and ignorance around what it is we do, how we do it, why we do it, and how we can unlock the future for tomorrow's leaders and really give back, investing in our youth, honoring them the way they deserve to be honored. And that's really our movement, Aaron. That's really what we do, creating solution-rich environments for people, whether they're young or old. We're bringing those solutions to the forefront and not putting a price tag on them, because nobody can put a price tag on love and evolution and being awakened and finally falling for yourself again. And that's huge. And that's really what we're all about. So for everyone that showed up today, the loves, the likes, the comments, that's the heartbeat and the breath of the broadcast, as you know. And for the hundreds of thousands of people all over the world that will see this on replay, especially those suffering in silence, use this as your permission and share this with somebody that you know may be suffering at the same time, and unlock their greatness. We'll see you tomorrow on Work Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday, on In the Tank Live, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, with Aaron Hairston and Keith Deyo. Peace!